Look, we did just have an important moment this week that in spite of all the opposition from the Labour Party,
yes,
we have passed the Rwanda bill through Parliament, right, in the face of enormous opposition.
Why is it not pointed out to the Prime Minister and viewers that a damning parliamentary report from the Cross-Party Joint Committee on Human Rights has found the government's Rwanda bill is fundamentally incompatible with the UK's human rights obligations, erodes the protections laid down in the Human Rights Act, contravenes parts of the European Convention on Human Rights, and falls short of the UK's commitment to comply with international treaties? And if all that's not enough, the report found the actions the Prime Minister is taking actually places the UK's hard-won reputation for the rule of law and human rights in jeopardy. How hard can it be to say to the Prime Minister his morally bankrupt Rwanda bill gives his government the power to determine a barefaced lie is the truth, disapplies human rights, puts the UK in breach of its international legal obligations, and is a shameless power grab that will put the government above the law?
So that's what I'm all about. That's the substance of what we're doing.
Well, no arguments from me on that one.
But before I got this job, the number of boats had literally quadrupled in a few years. They had gone up and up and up.
Well, how about referring the Prime Minister to the damning study by Durham University, which has found the primary factor in the skyrocketing number of small boat crossings is the oven-ready Brexit deal he championed, namely the government's decision to leave the EU without a returns agreement in place.
When I got this job, inflation was at 11%. Right, because of our plan, and that plan is working, in the last set of numbers, inflation has fallen to 3.2%.
Well, imagine the shock for the Prime Minister when someone tells him that shortly before he became Prime Minister, he'd been Chancellor for more than 2 years. When inflation started to accelerate early in 2022, then Chancellor Rishi Sunak couldn't wait to attribute the rise to global factors. Now he's claiming as a success for government policy that it's come down. By now, even Larry the Cat knows the job of cutting inflation is for the Bank of England. So any suggestion the government is responsible for it falling just insults the public's intelligence.
And next week, everyone in work is going to see in their paychecks a tax cut worth £900.
Well, again, imagine the shock for the Prime Minister when he watches this.
In fact, we looked at some of the figures, and the combined effect of the 4% cut in national insurance and the threshold freezes between 2021 and this April would mean that people earning less than £25,000 are worse off.
So when the Prime Minister says that next week everyone in work will see a tax cut worth £900, he's talking complete bollocks. And he'll fall off his chair when someone tells him that thanks to him, millions more people are now paying income tax since 2010. Don't just take my word for this.
You made millions pay more in income tax by changing the thresholds.
And more adults than ever are now paying higher rate tax. And if all that's not bad enough, even with his recent cut to national insurance, workers will still be clobbered with the highest tax burden for 70 years.
I've outlined radical reforms to our welfare system.
Again, imagine the shock for the Prime Minister when he finds out you can't just scare people into good health. Sunak knows full well there's been a long-term rise for many years under this government in people who are on long-term sickness benefits because they can't get the treatment they need through the NHS, which is now on its knees after 14 years of Conservative government. Millions of people are stuck on NHS waiting lists or struggling to access mental health support. So what Sunak is shamelessly attempting to do is blame the British people for his own government's abject failures on the economy and the NHS. His dangerous proposals risk leaving the most vulnerable people in society destitute in a cost of living crisis. The country should be in outrage.
Levelling up in actions.
Seriously? Millions are living in poverty and destitution. 1 million adults can't even afford to eat every day. 9 million are skipping meals and cutting back on food. And millions more can't afford to heat their homes.
That is a record that, of course, I'm proud of, and I'm bringing exactly that same set of values and exactly that same set of dedication to the job that I have now.
Heaven help us.
We've delivered 20,000 more police officers.
Really? By now, even Larry the Cat knows that what the government has actually delivered is just 4,000 more police officers in England and Wales than we had in 2010. Here's the government's own policing minister, Chris Philp, to confirm it.
That is 4,000 more than the previous peak in March 2010.
And how about reminding viewers that per capita, with an increasing population, as a result of Conservative Party policies, by the end of this Parliament, we will have fewer police on our streets than we did a decade ago, not more. Which isn't surprising given since 2010 the Conservative government has actually cut 21,000 police officers, along with 23,000 police support staff and closed 600 police stations. And if all that isn't enough for you, just listen to this from the government's former policing minister, Kit Malthouse.
Although we're going for 20,000 extra police officers, actually to backfill retirements, we've got to recruit something like 45,000.
How hard can it be to point all this out?